Let us execute an immediate, sweeping analytical vector shift away from competitive marriage deception games, upscale minimalist mansion perimeters, and the hidden country club asset portfolios of previous standalone formulas, and plunge straight into the high-octane calculation-heavy tracking grids of localized neighborhood psychological warfare, weaponized neighborhood facades, and the fiercely protective, dangerously fragile world of three toxic suburban frenemies running a raw tactical survival loop. We are crossing the threshold directly into the hyper-monitored, adrenaline-slicked perimeters of an explosive suburban countdown grid, exploring the lethal analytical parameters of an intense, trust-shattering deception matrix with You Killed Me First, the exceptional, pulse-pounding psychological thriller masterpiece engineered by the absolute, undisputed sovereign of high-velocity narrative landmines, dark multi-POV psychological traps, and ruthless character deconstruction, John Mars. This high-stakes narrative tracking sequence delivers an exceptional look at an operational crossroads where a fierce, hyper-vigilant circle of domestic players running conflicting safety loops, a calculating, manipulative newcomer asset running an elite integration blueprint across the pavement grid, and an absolute defense against an impending bonfire night execution collide at terminal velocity. Let us map the strategic narrative grid. If you are an elite enthusiast of high-octane, slow-burn psychological thrillers, where an endangered, hyper-observant female protagonist must navigate an absolute maze of rigged community gossip, corrupt neighborhood alliances, and a deadly ring of active personal frame-ups while running a blind survival loop inside a completely compromised cul-de-sac ecosystem, where an analytical mind uses deep behavioral profiling, calculated social boundaries, and absolute emotional stamina to outmaneuver an invisible predatory executioner network, and where the author utilizes an incandescent, three deceptive suburban women fabricate a flawless friendship veneer while harboring deadly individual secrets until an 11-month countdown ends with one of them trapped inside a towering bonfire diagnostic routine to test our hero's structural limits. This book is engineered to lock you in. Mars completely dominates the high-precision suburban cattiness meets suffocating psychological sabotage puzzles dynamic, capturing the heart-racing intellectual momentum, suffocating domestic paranoia, and heavy deductive depth popularized by genre vargs like Gillian Flynn, Frida McFadden, Lisa Jewell, and Lucy Foley, while treating realistic dark humor dynamics, complex multi-perspective deception alignment arcs, and protective high-density psychological extraction grids with absolute technical mastery. The narrative tracking grid zeroes in on the highly volatile, calculation-heavy baseline of our central legendary powerhouse assets: Margot, a faded teen TV pop star turned stepmother from hell, her long-suffering neighbor Anna, and a glamorous new arrival named Liv, operating under a severe calculation-heavy handicap of historical relational friction, intense personal secrets, and a hyper-visible targeting canvas within their shared cul-de-sac database. Behind their rigorous local coffee dates, flawless residential footprints, and tight neighborhood schedule logs lies an intricate matrix of hidden faction allegiances, deeply buried high society friction, and sharp, high-stakes tactical maneuvers. Their collective defense mechanisms are locked down tight behind a lifetime of trying to maintain their respective social statuses after devastating past timeline disruptions, their entire analytical focus strictly consumed by monitoring sudden threat vectors from each other's active scanning perimeters, parsing complex behavioral shifts from their partners, and shielding their vulnerable mental sovereignty nodes from being entirely wiped out by a ruthless domestic cleanup offensive. The spark ignites when an unexpected high-frequency structural anomaly breaches their active scanning perimeter. A terrifying time-jump prologue logs an unidentified woman waking up bound and gagged inside the structural core of a massive active November 5th bonfire, listening to the chilling anonymous baseline declaration, "You killed me first." As the hostile countdown phases enter an increasingly lethal terminal tier across an 11-month rewind timeline, the neighborhood's defensive layers begin to buckle under the weight of escalating proximity friction. The official diagnostic metrics of the global tracking centers flash white-hot when newcomer Liv's flawless family framework begins testing the active psychological boundaries of Margot and Anna's established turf, revealing that deep-rooted, smoldering secrets are operating behind their polished smiles. The standard boundaries of routine hospitality and peaceful civilian compliance protocols crumble, and our central protagonists run completely out of standard diplomatic escape vectors. They are thrust directly into an active, invisible war behind the locked doors of their quiet street, where deceptive frenemies masking their true tracking coordinates and a calculation-heavy psychological shadow network launch aggressive countermeasures to permanently suppress each other's survival data stream. The tactical parameters instantly explode as their historical and survival warfare turns completely active, transforming the large suburban walk-in closets, dark kitchen islands, and private fortified residential rooms into a volatile psychological pressure cooker and a physical battle zone. Our protective, hyper-vigilant hero assets are forced to deploy their massive intuitive tradecraft, elite behavioral mapping skills, and raw emotional stamina to preserve their focus before an adversary's relentless, calculation-heavy proximity containment phase permanently deletes their boundaries. The threat vector remains purposeful and resolute, determined to deploy deep digital extortion loops, continuous psychological gaslighting, and persistent dominance to shatter their defenses, only to realize their hardened survival protocols and shifting counter-narratives match their opponent's raw tactical speed step for step. Every midnight archival excavation of hidden histories, every silent choice to stand off against an encroaching adversary behind standard architectural barriers, and every intense moment of channeling raw, unyielding survival mechanics chips away at their reliance on original peaceful rules. What follows is an exceptional high-stakes war of perspective, tactical position, and raw human grit. We watch the neighborhood elite's deceptive perimeters completely unwrapped as John Mars reveals that the true victory requires more than just surviving an initial neighborhood arrival or managing a difficult personal disclosure. It demands an absolute, uncompromising defense of individual dignity, personal truth, and systemic survival against a cold, calculating machine of domestic manipulation and narcissistic supremacy. While our central characters smooth over each other's psychological and defensive blind spots with devastating analytical force, creating a fiercely protective, absolute web of dark possessive loyalty around their dangerous alignment, a brutal series of close-quarters tactical confrontations and high-stakes evidentiary breakthroughs shifts the clock into its terminal phase, proving that deep-seated secrets have tracked them to their final outpost. To survive the impending locked grid trap and permanently secure her sanctuary, our resilient protagonist must unleash an absolute, unyielding defense of her final boundary lines. It is a psychological thriller, suburban suspense noir, dark-humored frenemy mystery, and high-velocity contemporary puzzle masterpiece that treats deep relational logistics and intense structural friction with elite precision. The tension here burns with a sharp, calculation-heavy intensity. We're talking about that high-frequency, one uncovered suburban secret triggers a fatal Bonfire night showdown energy, where a sudden pause during an active franchise tactical briefing, an unexpected shift in an adversary's protective physical posture during a high-stakes standoff, or a heavy, possessive realization that an elite intelligence operative has completely mapped your personal coordinates carries massive structural weight. Mars writes with an exceptionally fresh, vivid, and beautifully blunt voice, capturing the heavy, oppressive atmosphere of a private executive vault before a major corporate takeover, and the distinct, subtle scent of polished mahogany, wood smoke, expensive champagne, cold adrenaline, and pure, unadulterated suspense. What truly elevates this contemporary standalone marvel into elite territory is the author's unmatched ability to balance complex, high-stakes relationship dynamics and genuine protective power tradecraft alongside a breathtaking narrative pace and deep emotional hooks. Our protagonists don't rely on unbelievable, superficial Hollywood superhero action tropes. Their immense situational intelligence, strategic patience, and profound survival instincts match the complexity of the chaotic, modern corporate and high society underworld they dominate step for step, making their choices to risk everything feel profoundly authentic and deeply gripping. The pacing moves with calculated momentum, tracking intense conversational standoffs and breathtaking tactical breakthroughs before ratcheting up to an absolute, jaw-dropping conclusion that delivers total, hard-earned advancement to their horizon. You Killed Me First is the definitive pro-level upgrade your high-stakes contemporary thriller and intense asset suspense library demands right now. It is elegant, immensely fast-paced, and utterly unputtable. It proves that when your entire sanctuary is targeted by a cold, calculating institutional monster, the most revolutionary play you can execute is to lock your perimeters, trust your elite survival training, and fight like hell with your network to rewrite the data. So, secure your personal reading sanctuary, review your emotional defensive perimeters, open your Kindle, and prepare to track the fleet.